Good morning, Sunnyvale. Make sure things are working accordingly. We'll get started in just a second. Hope everyone's doing well. Staying cool where you can. Enjoying National Parks Month. Oh, how's everyone doing? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Happy Friday. Welcome to my weekly virtual office hours. This week's early artwork is from one of the utility boxes. This one's at Fremont and Wright Avenue. And, so take a look at that. I thought it was actually pretty unique from that standpoint. It was kind of a robotic, kind of a cyborg woman. But it was an interesting mix of color. You see the green and the red, and for me, it's been actually fantastic to visit all the new locations where we're seeing the great box cover up continuing. And as I'm going from my different locations as being, my different responsibilities of being mayor, I always try to drive by. You never know when an artist is actually going to be out there. And I've been actually lucky to meet multiple artists at this point. So, for me, it's actually really good because I get to talk to them and, hear their story. And also it's really amazing to see how much positive feedback they've gotten from residents as they continue to work on those pieces of art. And it's actually been very good from that standpoint to see, to hear from them on what's going on. And, it's like, and hear how they came up with their piece, how they relate it to their surroundings from their proposal and all of that. So definitely, if you haven't taken a look, go around Sunnyvale. We had 12 pieces, 12 utility boxes that were covered up about a year and a half ago. And we're currently doing another 16 around the city. Some of them are complete. Some of them haven't even started yet. Actually, if you are if you want to drop by Moffett Park tomorrow, that one of the artists is going to be working on her piece of art from, I think, 11:30 to about 3 at Innovation Way in Matilda. So yeah, if you get a chance, definitely it's right there by the Lockheed entrance. Go by that and say hello to the artists, encourage, thank them for their work. That's what I've been out doing. Anyway, this is, let me go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining. My name is Larry Klein. I'm mayor for the city of Sunnyvale. And this is the 168th installment of my weekly virtual office hours. Hope everyone's doing well, staying healthy, staying cool. It was pretty hot last weekend, and a lot of people finding ways to get out of the heat. We've now reached 1,222 days since the March 16, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. Over 3 years ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop office hours into these weekly live stream addresses. And people still say they really enjoy hearing from their mayor each week. So thank you for those that have joined me. It's good for me because whether or not you're watching live or watching it delayed, it allows me to give you some updates about the city, what's upcoming, what some of the upcoming events are, and just answer some of your questions, which if one person has that question, probably 30 people have that same question about what's happening in the city. And so for me, it's actually been really good to reach a lot more people than just being a random town hall every few months or my normal coffee shop office hour. So thanks for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale. Most Fridays, just like today, I follow up this live stream address with in-person meetings at Being Seen on Murphy Avenue, like I've done for almost 7 years now. If you'd like to reserve a 15-minute or 30-minute time slot, just email me at council@larryklein.com, and then we can figure out a time that fits both of our schedules. You can always see my calendar of when my upcoming office hours are, and then a lot of the events that I go to at www.larryklein.com, and get a full understanding of all the things that the mayor is doing on a weekly basis. Now let's go ahead and get going and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last few weeks. Let's see, it was, I guess, last Tuesday. Yeah, so last Tuesday, council met, and we went past midnight for our meeting, and ultimately it was all around the Moffett Park specific plan. We had several things after that, but that was the main focus of the evening. And we've been discussing the Moffett Park specific plan for years now. It's adding, an additional 10 million square foot of office space, 20,000 units of housing, and 500,000 square foot of retail. And we've had, lots of advocates there to talk about the plan, but it's basically reimagining the north part of our city as a walkable, livable community. So it's that multi-use, multi-purpose community. I was on the planning commission back in 2004 when we approved the first specific plan for Moffett Park, and at that point, it was already office space. It was Lockheed was one of the main people out there, but we had Yahoo, and we had lots of a good number of tech campuses. But since then, it was important to kind of re-look at that. And so, it took about 20 years to build that out. It's a really big deal what we approved. But, from my standpoint, it's really a big accomplishment on, the vision of the city, and it's kind of sets that vision for the north part of Sunnyvale for the next 20 years. For me, we had our first community meeting just before COVID began. So February of 2020 was when our first outreach meeting happened, and that happened in person. And, I attended that. And then, it's taken about 3 years, and we've learned a lot of new techniques to do community outreach, to figure out, the best practices as far as that's concerned in getting things done as far as from a city standpoint, and activating the community, hearing what their concerns are, doing feedback. It's been actually a very good learning experience as far as how to do community outreach, especially during COVID. But we got a lot of feedback. And then, looking at, issues of housing and environmental sustainability and what can be done in that area, setting a course for the future that to me is really good, because it's looking at, a new vision of housing and office space, and, integrating technology and walkability and accessible open spaces, public spaces into that design. So for me, I was overjoyed to finally see that come to completion, being part of the first Moffett Park Specific Plan in 2004. And then about 20 years later, after we built out that first plan, setting the course for the next 20 years. And so, I'm really excited that we had such great input, and staff spent a lot of time trying to create what I think is a really good plan, and looking forward to that moving forward. And then last Wednesday night was a kickoff to our Wednesday night summer series in downtown. So great to see so many people there. So we have Wednesday night rock and roll and other music from until the end, from 6 to 8 p.m. every night, from on Wednesdays from until the end of August. And so, I'll be out there when I can. Definitely come out and enjoy the fun. The first night was busy, but I'm sure it will get busier and busier as the word of mouth gets out that the summer music is back. And then last Thursday was the first meeting of our Human Relations Commission. So it's been numerous years since Sunnyvale created any new commission. And this commission will advise council on matters related to equity, access, inclusion, justice, and belonging. And for me, it was fantastic to be there for that first commission meeting, and this was the first commission meeting ever where we actually did simultaneous English to Spanish and Spanish to English translation. So thanks to the city clerk's office for working so hard to make sure that everything worked out. It wasn't an easy task, and we had a few technical glitches throughout the evening, but from my standpoint, it was really good to make sure that it is truly bilingual, and making sure that all the commissioners and those that want to take part are able to be there and speak in multiple languages and be part of that process. And so I just want to thank Fernanda. I always forget her name. Perdoma Archiagas. So she's our equity, access, and inclusion manager, and she provided fantastic training. She's had lots of education. She has degrees in teaching this, and so it was good from an intergroup dialogue standpoint. And active listening, compassionate communication, really good techniques that anyone should have, especially a council member or a mayor. For me, that was one of the best parts of the evening is it was learning new tools, and I think that's really good. So that commission ultimately will be a conduit to members of our community that often aren't heard, and it'll help make our cities a little more accessible to everyone. So thank you for those commissioners who those 5 commissioners who decided to who applied, and we had I think 19 people, 20 people apply, but we ended up having to choose 5, and I think what we ended up with was fantastic. As a reminder, we're currently getting applications, so we're in an application period for once a quarter. We go through application period for open positions on our boards and commissions. So if you're interested, you can go to the city website and search for boards and commissions and see what that application process is. And then last weekend, we had some of the hottest days of the year so far, and it was hot, definitely in Sunnyvale. So always remember, and it'll be hot again this weekend. So remember to stay hydrated, check on people, don't, make sure that you're not leaving. And it's not just, seniors, children, it's your pets, and making sure that everyone is staying cool as much as possible. And then Saturday night was the kickoff for Jazz and Beyond. So that's much like our summer series. It's jazz, it's R&B, soul that will happen Saturday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. until the end of the summer, until the end of August. And Max Caballo Jr. Was there, and it was great to meet him and talk to him and hear a little bit about his story. So happy to kick that event off. And while I was there, and it's actually, I like the Jazz and Beyond event because you can basically sit down at a table, and there's a menu app where you can order from any of the restaurants, a majority of the restaurants on Murphy Avenue, and they will deliver right to your table. So it's a little bit more like it's like, okay, if you have a family that can't make a decision on what they want to eat, this allows, people to order from multiple restaurants and sit at a single table and listen to some great music. So really like what the Downtown Association has done in creating that event. And then actually, this is the thing. While I was there, I actually met Norm. And so Norm is the dog that was escaped from his home last week, actually just over about a week and a half ago. And he became lost, but somebody picked him up and then contacted the family demanding money, or else that they would never see Norm again. And so, good to hear directly from the residents about their story. And, Sunnyvale Department Department of Public Safety ended up setting up a, fake meeting to exchange Norm for money. And once the suspect arrived, he was taken into custody. So Norm was safe and sound. But I just want to thank our public safety officers for working quickly to capture that dog napper and ultimately return Norm to his loving family. So great work, and it was fun to meet Norm and hear from the family. And then last Saturday evening, I also attended Willy Wonka Jr. at the community center. So the Sunnyvale Community Players, they put on several, plays or musicals throughout the year, but the summer production is normally a youth production. And so this year it was Willy Wonka Jr. And I ended up being there as Mayor Wonka, so dressing up in my Willy Wonka costume, and it was great to meet the cast after the performance, after the musical. And if you're interested, they have another performance this weekend, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can go online and look at that. But there are golden tickets hidden among the concessions. The Wonka bar sold at concessions, so you can conceivably win tickets to free tickets to ultimately other plays, other things that are the community players are doing over the next season. So really fun from that standpoint to be out, and the kids always enjoyed and the cast enjoyed the mayor in the Wonka costume, which to me was always a lot of fun, and great homage to Gene Wilder, who I really loved. And the last Sunday, it's been a very busy week. Last Sunday I was at the Quarter Note on Lawrence Expressway. So that's the bar and musical performance location. And I've been going there for multiple years now for their benefit for Canine Search and Rescue. So the County Canine Search and Rescue is mainly, self-funded. So it's basically people who want their dog to have a profession, and they pay for that training. They do all that on their own, and so this helps raise funds to benefit all the great work that the Canine Search and Rescue dogs do, from searching for people, cadaver work, all that from that standpoint. And so there was barbecue and live music, and it was great to meet a lot of people there, but most importantly it was great to meet all the dogs. So that was fantastic. And it was a little warm, but in the shade they were actually still pretty playful and wanting petting. And I think that was a good way to spend a little time last weekend, is meeting some of the canines that are part of that search and rescue effort. And then, of course, all weekend long was the Friends of the Library book sale. I dropped by for a little while, bought a few books, and it's that summer reading. And if you miss the book sale at the library, at the Sunnyvale Public Library right now, that whole front area, there's books being sold. So that kind of goes on year round, but definitely look for, I think the next book sale is coming back in September. But don't forget that the summer reading program is going on right now. So if you haven't joined, you still have time to join, and still lots of time in the summer to read some good books. And whoever reads, I think if you read 3 books, you get a $5 gift certificate for the Friends of the Library book sale. So you can come back at a later date and enjoy that. And then as far as this week is concerned, Monday night, we had the ribbon cutting for the new headquarters for Synopsys here in Sunnyvale. And so Synopsys has had several engineering buildings here for a while, but they decided to move their headquarters from Mountain View here to Sunnyvale. So it's there in Peary Park. And, it's fantastic to see, a company that's been around for about 35 years, I think it is. So ultimately, started in North Carolina, came to the Bay Area, and it's software development, it's EDA tools, it's designing, chips and other things that are critical for all the other companies, for all the other infrastructure that's going on here. And so, it's actually really cool from that standpoint to see what those companies are still wanting to come to Sunnyvale, and it's good to have a good corporate partner that wants to help back. One of the things I was really impressed with is they donated their foundation donated $100,000 to Sunnyvale Community Services. So I just want to thank them for already being a community partner, and looking forward to working with them for multiple years to come. And then on Wednesday, I attended the NASA Ames picnic, and ultimately there were multiple electeds there, but it was good for me to meet, a lot of the NASA engineers. And, I've worked with some of them previously, knew them through other companies, but hear about the Viper Moon rover. So the Viper Moon rover is mainly, an effort right here at NASA Ames to ultimately send a new rover to the I think it's the southern was it southern? Yes, it was southern. The southern axis, basically the going to the South Pole of the moon, and checking to see if there's water, to see if there's any actual ice at that location, and visiting some of those craters. So it was really interesting to see from an engineering standpoint what's going on, and how they deal with the cold temperatures, and how they continue to power the system through solar, and making sure that it actually runs, and when it goes into the shade, how long it can be in the shade, all those sorts of things. Being in technology for the last 30 years, being at different tech companies, being able to take that and talk in depth with some of those engineers was really a fantastic thing. And so it was good to be there, meet the engineers, and hear about what NASA, all the different things that NASA is doing. And while I was there, of course, I visited, whenever I visit Moffett Field, I always try to go by Hangar 1 and see how the reskinning effort is moving. And it's moving along well. There were workers hard at work there, working on putting that new outside exterior onto that building. And so happy to see that moving forward, and thanks to Google for trying to maintain that piece of history. And then last night we had a goodbye celebration for Dawn Mayer. And so she has been the CEO for the Sunnyvale Chamber for the last few years, and hasn't been an easy task, especially during COVID. But getting a focus on small business, trying to make sure that small, medium-sized businesses can get a better presence online. And so helping them, partnering with some of our big tech companies to do, educational seminars, but advocating for small businesses, helping them, get small business loans, and, basically trying to help offload some of the work that small family-run business sometimes doesn't have time to do. But Dawn will definitely be missed, and for me, she's been a great partner, and sorry to see that she'll be moving out of Sunnyvale, and it'll be really hard to replace her. But she's really made a great mark on what the Art and Wine Festival can be. The Sunnyvale Art and Wine Festival always used to be tons of external, people from out of the area from a food standpoint and an art standpoint. Now we're bringing, art, both highlighting local art as well as, people from outside of the area from an art standpoint, but also then focusing on the downtown businesses. So having a few food booths, but having people support our local downtown as much as possible when they're enjoying the Art and Wine Festival. And then last night, there was also a virtual community built meeting from Caltrain, and it's actually regarding electrification. So starting tonight, Caltrain will begin testing our electric trains, the brand new electric trains between Santa Clara and Palo Alto. And so all that testing will be conducted overnight, and that'll start after 9 p.m. and will continue and will end before 6 a.m. So it's mainly to reduce impacts on regular Caltrain service. So residents may hear, additional noise during testing hours, the gate crossing activations, the train horns. Testing will be we'll start out slow, it'll be at walking speeds, and then it will increase to, I think, the maximum authorized speed of 79 miles per hour. So, we'll start seeing electrification be tested, and ultimately, sometime next year in 2024, we will finally have electrified Caltrain, which will actually make a difference as far as, how much service we can have. It becomes a lot faster. We can actually run those trains a lot faster, and it'll be really, really great from that standpoint to see, additional service and what they can do. I'm part of the Citizens Advisory Commission from Caltrain, and for me, it's been really good to get that perspective and give feedback on seeing what they're doing and finally seeing that move forward. As I said previously, I'm not covering, weekly COVID numbers anymore. Unless things change dramatically, we'll keep that, keep our fingers crossed as far as that's concerned. But I continue to spend a lot of time advocating on our city's behalf, whether at the county level, state level. I had lots of discussions with state leaders earlier this week, or at the federal level, talking to our congressmen. And so, for me, it's one of the biggest, one of the best things I can do for Sunnyvale is advocating to get us more funding, to get us more, representation. As far as upcoming council meetings, our next council meeting is next Tuesday, July 25th, and council will be looking at approving updates to several elements in our general plan. And there are state requirements that these different general plan elements be updated every few years. And this time we'll be looking at approving our noise and air quality element. So it should be a fairly light evening, hopefully. From that standpoint, August 8th, the meeting after that, will be a very busy night. We'll start with a study session on the Village Center Master Plan, and then we will consider several things. We'll consider converting the part-time bike lanes on Homestead Road into full-time bike lanes. There's also a city line request concerning downtown and looking at conceivably adding additional office space for that last block where the Macy's parking lot, we'll call the old Macy's parking lot, ground level parking is still there. So that'll be at that meeting. Let me go ahead and get to our weekly questions. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat, and I'll try to get to them before the end of the session, or I'll get to them next week. But I had lots of questions this week, mainly around, a lot of them around parks. So Alyssa asked, besides Las Palmas Park, what other parks have water features? So I highlighted that, the ponds at Las Palmas Park have been refilled, but Sarah Park has a nice stream through it. Braley Park has, kind of a meandering water feature with bridges that you get to cross. But multiple parks have splash pads and water kind of places for kids to play, to get splashed with water. But, those are the three, Las Palmas, Serra, and Bravely, that have the big water features. Of course, the community center also has the water features, but you get to share that with the geese and the ducks. Allison asked, is the water slide at Las Palmas Park back on as well? Or is that separate from the water features being refilled? That looks like fun on a fun option on a hot summer day. So I did check. It looks like there are some mechanical issues with that water feature. So currently there are some signs up that they're working on it. So hopefully staff will be able to fix those water features, that water feature there at Las Palmas, but definitely the fountains are spraying, and the pools are open at Las Palmas Park. The pond is open at Las Palmas Park. Ahmad asked, it was very unfortunate finding profane graffiti at Washington Park. How can I get this addressed and covered as soon as possible? So I ended up reporting this, so thank you for interacting with me, Ahmad. Ahmed, this is the biggest thing. Our residents are our eyes and ears. You're out there in the community. If you see a problem, please raise it to city staff. The easiest thing to do is go to sunnyvale.ca.gov in the main page, and you'll see Access Sunnyvale, and there you can raise. And this is what I'm always telling people, there you can raise any, issue that you find in the community, whether or not that's a cracked sidewalk, a street light that's out, a stoplight that's not working, or if you see graffiti, whether or not it's, gang graffiti or profane graffiti, that's what that's one of the easiest places that you can go and raise that issue. I entered it last Friday morning, and by Friday afternoon, they had gone out and they'd taken care of it. So thanks to city staff for being on top of things, but definitely, that's one of the things that you can do if you ever see, things that should be corrected in the community. And that goes to, whether or not it's, abandoned vehicles or weeds that are out of control on a neighbor's lawn. Neighborhood preservation will go out and, talk to that landowner and, try to get that corrected. And if they don't correct it at a certain point, they'll send out someone to actually do that service and add it to their county tax bill. So there are ways of doing that, even if a property owner isn't willing to, correct what their issues are. Julian asked, dear Mayor, we are a group of singing seniors living in Sunnyvale. We would like to get together and sing for fun every week. Do you know which park in Sunnyvale allows us to party and sing for free? So, pretty much every park you could do that at, as long as you're not utilizing, let's say, equipment to speaker systems and all that. But if you're just singing, definitely that's available at pretty much every park. And from a picnic area standpoint, you can there's lots of places you can drop in and sit. Multiple of our parks, like several of our parks, have seating areas or wider seating areas. There's a whole little amphitheater at Murphy Park that a lot of people don't even know about. But pretty much if you want to do that, I encourage you to add a little color, add a little music to our parks. George asks, looking at the scale model of the underway Civic Center development on display at City Hall, it looks like the parking area next to the library won't be as large as the current spaces. Is that correct? So, so when we did the Civic Center modernization plan, we kind of laid out a long-term future for what that might be. And, for initially it was looking at adding a new city hall. So the city hall is kind of the only portion of and if you want to take a look at that model, it's on the second floor of the new city hall. So if you go up the stairs to the second floor, take the elevator to the second floor, you'll see that model. It used to sit in the old city hall, which is currently under demolition finally. But you'll see kind of what that general plan was for a new city hall. Across the street from that would be the new library, and then next to that would be a new public safety building. Well, after we did that, the general master plan for the Civic Center. We ended up saying, oh, as opposed to immediately the need from a public safety standpoint, building a new public safety building, what the first phase was that going to be instead was the new City Hall, an addition on the existing public safety building, and renovations, which will hold public safety for a little bit, at least for 10, 15 years. And then as far as the library, we still have a decision to make on the library. That was somewhat of a placeholder, whether or not the parking that would be needed next to it, would be a parking structure, underground parking for a new library, or whether or not we would just renovate the old library and do an addition onto it. That decision still needs to be made. That should be coming back into council sometime in the fall or early next year. So that's what's moving forward as far as the library is concerned. But all that master plan model was kind of step one after we'd done a lot of community outreach. And for me, I think it gives a general plan. I've been doing a lot of discussion and trying to get control of the courthouse land, and that's one of the things that for me is really important. That what we could do there to try to kind of make sure that all the land on our civic center is maintained and managed by the city. That being said, the state owns the old county courthouse, which hasn't been used for years. And we just got an update, a few weeks ago that there's plans to conceivably build a two-story appellate courthouse there. So, that was some of my discussions with some of our state officials earlier this week, trying to see are there ways that they can work with us to either trade land or at least have us at the table to figure out what makes sense from a design standpoint. So hopefully we'll see where that goes. But that's kind of a quick overview of what's happening at the Civic Center. We still have decisions to make in that new library, and parking and everything else still needs to be done. But on the positive note, we tore down all the rabbit hutches next to the library. So all that is big open space, intermixed amongst the trees. It's actually been, if you take a look around the fence, it's pretty amazing. And then we are rapidly, tearing down the old city hall, and that the majority of that has been torn down now, and then they'll move on to the city hall annex. So lots of good things going on there. Gia Wen asked, when will the tot lot at Seven Seas Park be reopened? So staff is ultimately has out for procurement, looking for a construction company, consulting company, come in and resurface that surface, that kind of the bouncy service at that tot lot. So until that goes through the procurement process and we have somebody in to actually fix that surface, ultimately the tots can't utilize that because for their safety. Wendy asked, will there be new walkable school for all the residents and kids in Moffett Park? So ultimately, we had lots of discussions with the different school districts, and there are certain developers that are willing to dedicate land towards schools. And so we'll see where that goes in a long-term discussion. But schools were part of that discussion as far as when we were looking at Moffett Park. Lori asked, great to see the old city hall being demolished. When are we going to tear down the old fire stations in Sunnyvale? You realize that fire stations are the same from when I was born in '64. Let's get the firemen some updated stations. So, we're already having, we've been working on a fire station master plan. And first up, we're already starting planning for the demolition and rebuild of fire station number 2. So all that's already on the books. Through advocacy, I was happy to hear that Congressman Khanna got us at least $1 million towards that rebuild of Fire Station 2 in the federal budget. So happy to see that's a positive part of advocacy. Alan asked, if my family does a summer barbecue at Las Palmas Park on Saturday, is it first come, first served, or for the picnic sites. And so most of our parks have a mixture of reserved locations and first come, first serve locations. So, if you show up at 6 a.m., there's usually a table or two at every park that you can go to and, reserve your spot for the day and for your, or if you go to the Sunnyvale website and search for parks, then you can figure out how to go through the process of actually reserving certain tables that are available at each park. And then you'll have a sign on that it's been previously reserved prior to your visiting that park. Joe asked, is the small little night market area where central computers used to be still around? I feel it had potential, but never got traction. I would love to see a food truck night market in the area again, like Sports Basement used to have years ago. I totally agree. I'm a big proponent for food trucks, and I think that's a great way for small family businesses to get a toehold into our community, get a following, and then conceivably upgrade to a brick and mortar restaurant. I was sorry to see, it's still there. They're still having, issues getting, I say, traction, but there's always, one or two food trucks there, especially on the weekends, most evenings and on the weekends. And so they're still making a go of it. But definitely that's something that, I've see very positive in other cities. And I think that has a lot of potential here in Sunnyvale. Eric asked, good afternoon, Mayor Klein. Last year, you guided us by bike from Sunnyvale downtown to Day on the Bay. Will you be doing it again this year? So I did confirm that Supervisor Lee's office will have Day on the Bay again on October 14th, Saturday, October 14th. Last year, we did a bike ride from downtown Sunnyvale to Alviso, where that's being held. I should be there again. I added to my calendar. We're still waiting to see whether or not Supervisor Lee can work out those logistics. If not, I'm still hoping that we can get a group together to bike that. I do think it's there's safety in numbers, and I think it's just a great experience as far as that's concerned. Kim asked, as I continue to live with my liquid amber tree, which has wrecked my front yard, sewer, and is a public hazard for pedestrians and bicycles, I signed up for the liquid amber removal list several years ago, and I'm hopeful the city will reconsider funding or refunding a program to directly assist Sunnyvale residents with the removal of this horrible tree. So, yes, I've heard lots of complaints through the years about, the liquid amber trees, and we actually have a liquid amber tree in front of our house. But I did check with the city manager, and they will be restarting that liquid amber tree replacement program later this year. And this was with funds that the council set aside for tree maintenance. And so, ultimately, I do think it's a positive thing that, people, I think there's a backlist of 50 or 80 people who wanted their liquid amber trees replaced, but hopefully we'll be able to restart that program. And that's one of the things that council did, is we set aside $1.2 million additional funds over what the city manager suggested to go towards trimming some of the trees that hadn't been trimmed for the last few years. We have a backlog of untrimmed trees, and then conceivably, the city manager said a portion of those funds would be used towards restarting that liquid amber replacement program. I think that was my, and Johan asked, wondering if you have any insight what's going into the old Wendy's building on Matilda. That is a Taco Bell, and they're hard at work at those renovations. I'm not sure when that will be opening, but definitely there's been a lot of work, and happy to see that it's actually moving forward relatively quickly. But now that they finally got started on that work, as far as that's concerned. Let's see if I have any additional questions. No, I don't see any additional questions. So let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. We live in interesting times, new issues come up almost every day, but I want you to know that no matter what challenges we face them together. I'm proud of Sunnyvale and how our residents have responded to the many challenges over the last few years. But I'm just thankful for what the community we have. Everyone that helps out in art seems to help out in our community. It's very generous, is kind, is very welcoming to other people. So, remember that your actions and your attitude really do make a difference. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together and we will get through this together. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool. But enjoy yourself. Okay, goodbye.